Hey guys, it's Shane. How you doing? Welcome back down to the workshop. So another video for you, and this time we're going to be building a new weapon. We're going to be building a LARP rapier. It's actually a set I'm going to be doing, a rapier and a matching dagger set. So it's going to be quite a big build. We're going to be doing it in sections, but if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and the bell and you'll be alerted when I go live with new stuff. You can also check out my other links on my Twitch, my live feeds, my Instagram, my Etsy store. Everything's all in the description below. So let's jump straight into the video, eh? Okay, so we're going to be making a rapier. Now, like the Sorrow's Edge sword that we made recently, the Elven Curve, this is going to be a little bit simpler and harder in places. It's a straight blade, nice and simple, although it is very thin. Rapiers, like the fencing swords that they use in the musketeers, they're very slim, very nimble, but we still have safety regulations that we have to follow. Okay, so we're going to be doing this step by step. The first step, part one, this one, we will be building the blade. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on today. So what I need for that, I need my core, I need my 3 pieces of foam that is going to make up my blade, and I need my reinforcement. I'm also going to need my glue, which is the Alpha Thixathix, and I'm going to need something to spread it with, a brush or something like that. So very simple. So step 1, your core. Now ideally I use either 8mm cores. Sometimes I go up to 10mm if I'm doing a bigger weapon, but for a rapier you want it really thin. Unfortunately, the cores that I have at the moment, due to the coronavirus, are only 9mm. Now this is carbon fibre, okay, so it's got a little bit of bend in it, not a lot, it won't bend much at all, but this is a 9mm. Now the foam I'm using is only 8mm, so it's going to have a slight deformity when we put it in until we squash the hell out of it, but it will sink and it will set. So both ends have been rounded, and I've covered them over with a bit of hockey tape, just to make sure that they don't cut, okay? We don't want them going into the foam and doing any damage, so that's why that's like that. Now this core has been previously used, that's why it's in a bit of a state. I have used this for another weapon, an old weapon that I've repurposed, because the weapon itself was old and it was a bit one of my old weapons and it needed a bit of a touch up, so rather than touch it up I thought I'd rebuild one. Now the core, you need to score it, make sure the glue will stick to it, and our weapons tend to be 42-inch long. Now a 42-inch is a one-handed weapon, so if we go up to put our tape measure down, you can see now we need 2 inches of foam, and I'll show you here. Now this foam has been pre-cut to a rough standard shape of my rapiers, so I need 2 inches from the very tip of the foam to the tip of my core, so roughly about there. Okay, so when we put this against the tape measure, make sure there's 2 inches in front of it. That's a safety regulation, okay? We need that. So put that on the start of it on your 2-inch line. Now, you'll notice this only goes up to a 41-inch. That's because there is also another safety law that says we need at least an inch of foam between the tip of the core and the pommel head. Okay, so the actual head. So we've got 2 inches of foam at the front and an inch of foam at the back. So this is 39-inch, this core. This is cut exactly to what it should be. Okay, hope that clears that bit up. Now, our foam. These are 8mm thick, and I've just basically cut a shape to it and a little bit of a round edge. So what we're going to use, we've got 3 of these to make our sword. So get the biggest one, which is the one in the middle. Okay, now hopefully you've got a straight edge, and I think that's going to be the straightest edge that we can. Now you need a pen. First thing is make sure you put 2 inches. I'm going to go 2.5 just to make sure. Actually no, I can't, because that's already cut to the size, so just make sure you got a 2-inch mark, so we know that's where the tip of our core goes. Now, find the center of that bit. So we've got 4.8. So we need 2.4. So that's our centre line bit there. And the same on this side end. Now that's 6, so that's nice and easy, so that's 3. Now all we need to do, rather than trying to find out if we've got a straight edge or not, I'm not sure I have, so I'm going to use my core itself. So put the core tip onto your line, the 2-inch line, and right where you've marked the centre of it, and do the same on here. Now that should be dead in the centre, so draw your lines. And the other side. Okay, how does that look? Not too bad actually. Not too bad. Right, now it is virtually in the centre. It might have deviated slightly as the foam had bent. So as I've looked down it, it's pretty much square. It does deviate slightly to the left. So what I'm going to do is just put an arrow there and an arrow there, which tells me I've done an arrow pointing that way and that way. So on my first line, there's a little arrow. And on my second line, there's a little arrow. So what that means is I'm going to cut that side of the line, just to move it over a touch. Nothing fancy. Right, so I need to be that side of this line, so I'm not cutting on the line, I'm just cutting on the inside of it, just to move that over a touch. It's only going to move it over maybe 1 millimetre, if that, but that's all it needed. It doesn't need to be too much. Okay, now I tend to use a little bit of a smaller knife just to make my incision here. So I need to cut that flat. Now, take that out. I keep these because we can use these later on for the basket of your rapier, so keep them. I've got a whole box of them down here. Now, there you go. So what's going to happen now is we're going to glue up our core. What's my pen doing? That's it. So we're going to glue up the core, and we're going to glue up the insides of here. So that will sit snug as a bug in there. Now remember, our core is 9mm, but our foam is only 8mm. So there's going to be a slight, variation. And it's better just to lift the foam up just a touch. So I'll show you how we do that. But first, we glue. Got to let that dry for a minute until it gets tacky. So just put that out of the way for a minute. But while I'm waiting, I'm going to glue up one of my reinforcements. Now this is just false leather. You don't have to use false leather. You can use any sort of tough fabric or Kevlar. I've seen some people use Kevlar, but that's very expensive. We're trying to keep the cost down. Okay. Now, because I've got that glued up, I'm going to glue up one side. Okay, so all around the tip, just put a bit of glue on it like that. Now you're going to take your core. Now remember, 9mm, 8mm. Now when you put this flat, no matter how hard you push on it, the underneath will always be, the core will slightly be raised. We don't want that, so we have to do it bit by bit on the side. Now this is almost tacky to the touch, so we know it's dry. So put it up flat against the inside like that. Okay, so it's flat in there. Now put this dead in the middle of your bottom run. Forget the top for now. We just want that dead in the middle. Now you'll notice with this glue it will start to bite. Okay, now over here you'll notice that my reinforcement, I've cut 2 tabs off the side. Can you see that? So it's not a square. That's just going to help when I start to shape. So all I'm trying to cover is where the core meets the foam. Okay, that's all I'm after. As long as that bit's covered, it doesn't matter how far down you go. Okay, that just stops that any side movement. Alright, now the easy part. We're going to glue all that up, glue one of them up and sandwich it on the top. Okay, so we have one section. Now if you see here, look, slightly deviated on these two than this one. So we're going to smooth all that out. So we've got this basically trimmed down. So what I'm going to do now is go on the belt sander, smooth these edges out so we can then cut the tang. Okay, so we've got the edges all smoothed out, okay, which allows me to do the actual blade edge. Now before we do that, we've got this end to trim up. As you can see, it's like a step, yeah, so we just need that flush. So go to the smallest point and cut everything level. There we go. Alright, so that's our sword edge. Now, we need to find our centre line before we do anything. So obviously the point over here is quite easy to find. Now if we start doing a measurement like this, it should find the centre point, yes? But however, it might have variated because these are not exactly straight. They're just smoothed down. So just be careful when you do it. So I've got 4.5 there, or 4.7. So we'll go 2.3 there, which should marry that up into the middle. Okay. Now, from this end, I like to have at least, I'm going to go with 8mm. I like to have a flat end here because I think it looks better. We don't need to worry about the edges now. On the centre line, I like to have a little bit of a raised platform, so I'm going to go with, yeah, we'll go with a centimetre. So 5mm each side. Okay, before we carry on with that, this is the actual mock-up that I use. Now this is for when I do a scabbard. Now as you can see, it's got a flat head all the way down to about here. So just use the same thing, mark it up so it's about there where it stops. Okay, so that's all we're doing. So we can keep this uniform. So if I have to do a scabbard for it, this will fit into that scabbard. Okay. Now I know a lot of you won't have a template to use, so all you need to do is cut 3 pieces of foam. I usually go around 6 centimeters, 6 centimeters square, just boom, all the way down, the length of your blade, and then I cut the shape out, so it's no different. Okay, so now the tang of the blade. Now I don't want to come in too much, however, from this edge, yeah, where I've done my cross line, as you can see, yeah, I'm going to go from this side to this side and angle it down. Yeah, so I'm just doing it like a little curve. And the same on the other side, from the same point. Alright, so it looks like that. Now, we're not going to need all that. Alright, because this is our fuller line here. We've already done it. We're going straight up from in here up to this point, and the same on here. Alright, so it's nice and flat, just like this. But we do need a line down the middle here, and you'll see why in a minute. So put your finger on the edge, put the pen halfway through the the second piece of foam. Just keep your fingers still and move down. And the same with this one. Okay, so I've got a line both sides. Now all I need to do is this side. So again, find your centre mark. Line each side. You need a very sharp knife for this. Now guys, please be careful. So what I'm going to do is, I need to do my curve, which ends there. That's my dog scurrying around. Right, okay, so sharp knife. Okay, so we don't want to be quite on the middle line here, and we don't want to be on this line here. We want to be just shy of both of them. So coming in at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so we've got the basic blade cut out into good shape. Now test the end, make sure that feels okay, it's not giving too much core anywhere. All right, so now it's time to go onto the sander and give it a smooth. Okay, so we've got the rough off with the belt sander. What we're going to do now is go in with some 250 grit and just smooth that out. Okay, take it right up to our lines. Now you can do this any way you like, just make sure you don't go over your line. You just have to smoothen it. Okay, now just to make sure you've got it in the right area, you need a heat gun. Now this is where the magic happens. So you've got these frayed edges, so what we're going to do is use the heat gun, okay? And just watch the texture change. Everything tightens up, all the frayed edges disappear. Now you've got a nice tight blade. Okay, you can see where any mistakes are. Okay, and there's obviously one there. There's a little divot. Can you see that? Where the foam and the glue didn't quite bite together properly. And when I've cut, it's took a piece out. So what we'll do is use flexi filler to fill that in. There's also a piece here, look, where the perfect chamfered angle hasn't quite gone to the line where I thought it had, so we just literally go back in with your hand sander. Now these blades are very, very thin. This is why a lot of people don't like doing rapier blades, but according to safety law for most LARPs, yeah, you need 2 inches of foam between the tip and where your core starts, which by the feel of it is in there. So there's a good 2 inches. Look, just to make sure, I've got like about 2 1/4 roughly. Okay, we also need an inch of foam at the end, just to make sure when we do the pommel. Now over here onto this side, on a striking edge, which is this one and this one, obviously they're the 2 blades that we're going to be using for striking, there needs to be 10 millimeters between the edge of your core and the actual striking edge. Now there's my edge, even though that's chamfered, that's still on the same line, look. Okay, same as that one. Yeah, these edges are chamfered, but it's still at the same height as this. Now if I put that on there, you have 20 millimeters between the edge of the core and this outer edge, which is my striking edge. So that will pass, even though it feels flimsy and it doesn't, you know, you can squeeze it and feel the core, which I don't like, but it's a rapier. Now between a non-striking edge, which is the top part here, okay, and the core, you can go down to 5 millimeters. Now if we have a look up here, we have 7 on this side and 7 on that side. Okay, so we're 2 millimeters over on both of these edges. That's why it feels quite, you know, you can squeeze that and feel the core there, which I really don't like. But again, a rapier, very thin, very nimble. Once we've added the latex over that, that'll stiffen up and it'll give it a little bit more rigidity. But that is your rapier blade done. Okay, so our blade is now built. Okay, we've started it from scratch. I had a basic template, which is this, which is what I use to make in scabbards. I'm not making a scabbard for this, but I'm always trying to keep uniform. It was a uniform rapier on my Etsy store, so that's what I'm doing. So I already had a template to work from. Try and always have a template to work from when you're building. It makes things a lot easier. If you don't, and you just want to construct this, it's all measurement. That's all you're going to have to do. You're going to have to have a reference picture. Cut your 3 sheets of foam into blocks. I usually do them 6 centimeters wide, and then the tip to where your cross guard's going to go. So you're going to have to measure it all out on your core, which should be 39 inches for a one-handed weapon. Okay. Once you've got your foam cut and you glue it all together, don't forget your reinforcements, just like we've done, and your safety limits. Between the edge of a core and a striking edge, a minimum of 10 millimeters. Yeah, between the edge of your core and a non-striking edge, you need 5 millimeters. You need 2 inches of foam at the end between the tip of your core and the actual edge. And then you need 1 inch at the pommel end again. All right, but we'll get to that when we get to the pommel. You can just do a basic straight edge with a couple of tangs on it. This is quite a difficult blade because you've got the core is so close to this. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Rapiers are not an easy build at all. Okay, so that's it for part 1. I hope it's helpful. I hope you've enjoyed that, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. I will do part 2 next week. I try and do 2 videos a week at the minute. I will try the part 2 for Monday or Tuesday after I finish work, and we'll carry on with part 3 at the weekend. I hope this was helpful, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. So if you've got any questions, please leave me a comment below. You can check out all my other social media stuff, and don't forget I stream Wednesday to Saturday on Twitch on the TTC Craftworks. And guys, if you want to help out the stream and me personally, go over to Patreon, TTC Craftworks Patreon, and have a look in there. I put all my progress pics and things up on there. I only have one tier, which is the $1, so people can pledge $1 or as much as they like. It all helps me out, helps me stay here on Twitch and on YouTube. So cheers, I'd appreciate it. So yeah, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell button, and you'll be alerted when I go live with new stuff. But that's it, guys. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.